Music, marches, community. Juneteenth celebrates the final emancipation of slaves in America. And Denver has a storied history of celebrations.
This is history. This isn't Black history, it's American history.
In the late 70s and 80s, you could see hundreds of thousands of people walking up and down Walton Street.
This is a glorious day for us.
I'm Tori Mason, and now we have a special report on CBS 4, Elevating Black Voices, Celebrating Juneteenth.
4th of July freed the land, Juneteenth freed the people.
This year's Juneteenth Festival kicks off here with a concert at Levitt Pavilion. But last year's celebration came on the heels of the death of George Floyd after weeks of protests against racial injustice. But what exactly has changed since then?
This is a glorious day for us.
Denver's first Juneteenth celebration goes back to the 50s. Nearly 100 years after the last slaves learned they were free.
We might have kind of started off slow, but hey, we got it together.
The holiday evolved with the Mile High City. As buildings grew, so did festivals. June 19th is never just a day.
Juneteenth is one of those things that is certainly rooted in the cultural fabric of our city.
For the last 10 years, Norman Harris has produced Juneteenth Music Festival. But 2020's was unlike any other. COVID-19 forced the festival to go virtual, but it gave people behind the scenes a chance to reflect on what all the planning is really for.
What it challenged us to do is to focus more on what our true values were as an organization, and that is the promotion of Juneteenth.
Earlier this year, Denver City Council declared Juneteenth a city holiday. But there's still an ongoing effort to observe June 19th nationally.
How can we as a country truly atone for the brutality of this institution when we don't even acknowledge it?
Last summer, weeks of protest against police brutality and racial injustice overlapped the holiday, bringing a renewed interest to the meaning of Juneteenth. But many people still don't know the day's significance.
The fact that the United States of America and most folks who go to school haven't learned about Juneteenth through our education system is an indictment that our country has not wholeheartedly acknowledged the institution of slavery.
Juneteenth is as much about educating communities as it is celebrating a community. Whether it's a backyard barbecue or a party in the street, on June 19th, we stop to remember we were all free.
We have to come together and stand together much stronger than what we have before.
There are Juneteenth events all over Denver and the state. We have a list on cbsdenver.com. The LGBTQ community is celebrated during the same month as Juneteenth. And for the first time ever in Denver, Black Pride is being celebrated at this year's festival.
My government name or my drag name?
On a Tuesday afternoon, he's Thurell St. Cyr. But felony misdemeanor doesn't care about pronouns. Since 2004, Felony skated her way to the top of Denver's drag scene. But the ride isn't always smooth from black man to black queen.
Gay wasn't really talked about a whole lot growing up.
The Texas native says his family supports him, but studies show black men experience homonegativity at higher rates than their white counterparts. Felony has a following, but the struggle for acceptance others face often lead to depression and even suicide.
Being gay in the black community is kind of shunned upon. There's this image that has to be upheld, and being gay is not one of them.
Juneteenth organizer Norman Harris says he received feedback from people who weren't on board with celebrating Black Pride the same weekend. Some of the queer community of color don't feel welcome at either place.
They go down to Pride and they get funny looks because they were black.
Felony says that's exactly why they have a place at Juneteenth.
I can walk down the street and I'll be called black before I will be called gay. It's a big, giant celebration of blackness, but also it's not very queer.
At the same time, Felony says Pride isn't very black.
Pride is commercialized, unfortunately, to my white brothers and sisters.
That's why this inaugural Black Pride is so important. They're two communities that often face discrimination from others and even each other.
Flexing in my complexion.
When you
So,
identify
yes,
as both,
look at our-
acceptance from both is a celebration that lasts far beyond June.
We're Black and we're proud and we're happy, and we want you to come and enjoy the beauty that is Black.
Representative Leslie Herod is the first Black gay woman to be elected to the state legislature. And as our Sean Boyd reports, she quickly became a leader and a voice for people who have long been marginalized.
I remember the first time I actually was able to walk in this chamber as a lawmaker.
Representative Leslie Herod took the state legislature by storm when she was elected 4 years ago. As the first Black gay woman to serve in the General Assembly, she says her charge was clear.
To make sure that the people who were casting those votes knew how those votes impacted communities like mine.
Especially when it comes to criminal justice. She was already pushing for police reform when George Floyd and Elijah McClain were killed.
I was done with letting them change on their own.
She passed the Police Integrity and Accountability Act, making sweeping changes, including an end to qualified immunity.
As we watched the votes come up on the board and the bill pass, that was probably a very, surreal moment for me, because I just knew that we were going to make an impact.
The changes don't stop there. Herod has restored voting rights for parolees, ended cash bail for low-level offenses, and defelonized possession of drugs for personal use.
The war on drugs was really a war on people of color and low-income people.
While she is a force to be reckoned with at the Capitol, Herod says becoming a lawmaker once seemed as remote as becoming a princess. One of her defining moments came in the 4th grade.
My first Black teacher, I was coloring a princess. And I wanted to show her that I found a trick, that I could take the orange crayon and use it lightly, and that would be more like skin color. She said, "That's great, it looks good, but your brown crayon works just as well."
Her life experiences influenced her legislative work. She passed a budget amendment to provide free tampons to women in prison. Her sister wants one of them, and a bill to bar discrimination based on a person's hairstyle, after she was told she'd have to straighten hers to be a cheerleader.
To this day, I cannot see a young girl who maybe is a cheerleader who's told she had to straighten her hair one more time before I take action. And we passed the Crown Act. I'm here to start breaking down those barriers brick by brick. And whatever brick looks like one that's a little shaken loose, I'm gonna pull it out, okay? Until we have a Colorado that is equitable for everybody.
And as a member now of the powerful Joint Budget Committee, she says she's just getting started.
Most fearful of is waking up and realizing that it's not enough. A lot of folks see me as this extremely confident woman walking through and just taking care of it all. Sometimes my knees do shake and I don't know what I'm gonna say or what I'm gonna do, but it doesn't stop me from moving forward. I don't think little Leslie could have ever imagined that she would be sitting here, but I also can't imagine where I'm gonna be in 20 more years. And so let's just keep breaking those ceilings and see where we go.
Sean Boyd, covering Colorado First.
Every day, hundreds of Black officers in Colorado put on their uniforms and their badges and serve our community. Our Dylan Thomas takes a look back into the first Black officers in Colorado over a century ago and their proud legacy that still lives on today.
Ever since I was a little kid, this is what I wanted to do.
As a young Black man with a passion for public service, Denver Police Commander Glenn West still pursued a career in law enforcement despite hesitation from some.
The question that I would get most is, why would you want to do that?
It's a question many from the Black community have raised once again, after a year of protests and riots sparked by cases of police brutality against some of their own.
I think it's been a struggle that we have had for a long, long time.
It's been more than 140 years since Denver Mayor Richard Sopris hired Isaac Brown as the city's first Black officer.
It was because the Black community felt like they needed representation.
While there are no known photos of Brown, he laid the foundation for those who came after him, from officers Gilmore, Bruce, Williams, and Riley to the Baker brothers, the first black female officer, Carol Hogue, hired in 1972 to Commander West, and those still to come.
It was definitely an eye-opener.
As a 20-year-old black man, Tyler Moffitt watched the fallout between police and the black community last summer.
Seeing that is when I definitely knew that I needed to go in and bring the community and law enforcement back together.
Tyler joined the Police Explorers program. Both he and Commander West say the best way to right the wrongs of the past is to hire more people from marginalized communities.
There has been, with the black community, a lot of fear and apprehension as far as the police are concerned. We have to really work hard to try and break down some of those barriers.
Which is why West now heads a division of DPD dedicated to recruiting diversity. 9.8% of Denver's residents are black. 8.9% of the officers are as well. It's a number West hopes to increase.
It takes all of us to move forward to heal some of the things that have happened in the past.
In Denver, I'm Dylan Thomas, covering Colorado First.
A diverse criminal justice system must also include attorneys and judges. Now retired Denver County Judge Gary Jackson was one of just 3 black students in his 1970 class at CU Law. In 2020, Jackson challenged the school to enroll at least 10 black students. Now, this fall, his alma mater will welcome 12. Jackson believes lawyers have a platform and that legal knowledge provides power to bring change.
It's my hope that there will be young people inspired by what has taken place to become lawyers, become educated in a way that they can make a difference.
Last summer, the University of Colorado Law School introduced the Anti-Racism and Representation Initiative. It aims to confront racism and advance greater inclusion. Redlining is an age-old practice. Coming up, how it's still impacting people of color who want to own their homes. And how Denver's first black-owned gun club is taking aim at stereotypes. We can't move forward without sometimes looking back. Many Coloradans couldn't buy homes because of a practice called redlining. It pushed many families of color out of the cities. And as our Michael Abeda reports, there's still more work to do.
This is it.
James Roy II just opened his art gallery in his hometown.
I grew up in the 5 Points originally, and then in Park Hill.
He's also writing a master's thesis on urban planning and displacement, and he's watched Denver grow with him.
Yeah, it's changed a lot.
A big reason for that, gentrification.
It's a process of reinvestment in an area.
Think about the Highlands, which was once North Denver. Then there's James's neighborhood, which looked a lot different when he was younger.
The neighborhood was 70% black in the year 2000. It went down to around 53% in 2010.
But this pushing out of Denver's communities of color isn't just happening in a bubble.
Redlining has been such an integral piece.
Redlining, a tool used in the 30s and 40s by loan companies.
So it was this process of establishing underwriting standards to ensure that money that went into backing mortgages was safe.
Lenders would color code neighborhoods. Green or blue was an area of good investment. Yellow, a declining area, and red areas were risky. Carrie Makarovitz, an associate professor of urban and regional planning for CU Denver, says one of the big factors that influenced their decisions was who lived there.
It reinforced segregation, inequality, and racist beliefs about who should be able to get a loan.
That means that black people often couldn't be homeowners.
If these minorities had the opportunity to purchase these homes and own these buildings, then when these developers are coming and wanting to completely gentrify, then they would have made a profit.
Daniel Dixon is the CEO of the Dixon Real Estate Group. He has also seen black families being pushed out of Metro Denver.
They're going to Meade. They're going to Brighton.
He says that black customers often don't have financial help to make competitive offers on homes because their families were denied the opportunity to build generational wealth.
It's about, hey, well, my mom wasn't part of that inheritance where she can gift me my down payment.
Which means Denver is becoming whiter.
The loss of culture and diversity is, I think, always a detriment to a city.
So how do we keep people of color in the city of Denver while reinvesting in areas that have been underserved?
James and Daniel say we need to help them compete for homes in Denver.
So we need to be able to create opportunities for renters to get into home ownership.
And convince people who do own homes that there is value in keeping it.
Folks are coming into the community and taking advantage. Folks have sold their community wealth in a way.
Michael Aveta, covering Colorado First.
The 1770 Armory and Gun Club in 5 Points is Denver's first Black-owned gun club. Co-owner and instructor Anubis Haru wants to change the narrative around Black gun ownership.
There is a ton of responsible gun owners that are African American, and our responsibility is to make sure that individuals who do own firearms, that they bring it in, they learn how to use it.
The gun club offers concealed carry classes, home defense, and tactical first aid training. You cannot operate a live fire range in the city of Denver, but 1770 Armory has partnered with other ranges outside city limits to offer live fire experiences. Coming up next on CBS 4, the push to get more people of color exploring Colorado's great outdoors. And elevating Black voices in Colorado's healthcare industry, what they say are the keys to bringing equity to the industry. Some of Colorado's most beautiful summits can feel out of reach for people of color. Ken Taylor spent years encouraging diversity in the high country. The Slippers and Sliders founder has helped people see Colorado at new heights through the Beckworth Mountain Club. Patricia Cameron runs the nonprofit Black Packers, which raises money to make the outdoors more accessible. The pandemic exposed several inequities in our healthcare system, but many are trying to change that. Dr. Von Brown works in the emergency department at the UC Health Hospital. He also teaches emergency medicine. He says a more diverse workforce starts when kids get opportunities early.
We need to have a pipeline of qualified, excellent students through middle school, high school, who are receiving encouragement to pursue careers in medicine and science.
Leaders in the industry tell us retention and promotion are also crucial. Up next, we feature a Black Colorado sportscaster, the first ever on Denver radio waves. In the world of sports journalism, an East High alum became a trailblazer for Black sportscasters in Denver. Our Connor McHugh gives us a look into the life of the late Theory Smith.
Hi, this is Theory Smith, inviting you to join me.
Quiet but confident, Theory Smith was unlike anything Denver sports fans had heard before.
Hello, great doctor. Hey, Theory, how you doing, man?
For nearly 3 decades, he was patient rather than combative.
And you know, you and I aren't going to agree with every call.
Quick-witted, at times controversial, and unapologetically homegrown.
Someone of his caliber doing sports who was from the community, I mean, he was a superstar.
An East High grad, Theory Smith was the first Black voice for sports on Denver's airwaves. Starting at KDKO in the 80s, he went on to work for KYBG and AM 950 The Fan.
We'll get to your calls as we can.
Over the years, he covered it all, but more than anyone else, gave high school athletes a voice.
He really had affinity for them to, compete, not just in sports, but compete on the educational level too.
As a kid in Northeast Denver, Calvin Williamson was an avid fan and neighbor of Theory's mother.
I mean, it was mind-blowing for me. And that right there stayed with me and stayed on my mind, and it helped me in my pursuit to later on go into radio.
Years later, Williamson worked on Smith's show. He says his human touch bought him the trust of athletes like Magic Johnson and Muhammad Ali. And like the boxer, Smith was unafraid of controversy, like when he became a Raiders fan after the team hired a Black coach.
He never tried to be anything other than who he was as an African-American man.
But behind the scenes, longtime friends like Beatrice Griffin knew what many listeners didn't. Smith battled multiple sclerosis for years.
I don't even know how he carried himself the way he did. When he was unable to walk, he still made sure he did all of his gigs.
With KDKO, Smith did his show from home, but later returned to the studio with The Fan. As his body broke down, he never quit.
Chauncey, thanks for joining us, and first off, man, congratulations.
Thanks, man. What up with you, baby?
The airwaves have been absent of Smith's voice for almost 12 years, but his legacy lives on. From the young Black men who followed his path,
Happy Friday, it is Big Al and JoJo,
to those he gave a voice.
To give them that confidence that they could do anything in this world.
In Denver,
we got a great lineup for you tonight.
Connor McHugh covering Colorado First.
Thanks for joining us for this special report, Elevating Black Voices, celebrating Juneteenth. I hope you get a chance to get out and enjoy some of the events this weekend. I'm Tori Mason. Happy Juneteenth.